Hey, everybody, it is I, Hope Giselle, on behalf of The Root. And let me tell y'all something. They have got me out here at Netroots Nation 2026, and I am having a blast. When I tell you everyone who is anybody in the political space right now is here, I do mean that. And I get a chance to talk to some of your favorite influencers, some of your favorite state representatives, and even some of the people who are controversial. Now, I've already had a conversation with Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. And I know that y'all already know that that was a good one because he's known as one of the more radical representatives and VPs of the DNC. Now, despite what some people might be saying about all of that, I want to let y'all know that Netroots is not just a place where we come to get messy, but it's a place where we come to get real about politics and what's going on in the world around us. Because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And this is one of those places where you have no choice but to understand that history will not be repeated in the negative. So, one of the things that I've been commissioned by The Root to do is to break down everything that is going on and all of the stuff that you might not know is happening on your timeline in real time. But I'm going to give it to you in a condensed form and fashion. So, there are so many things that are being passed around, especially as it pertains to being Black, as it pertains to HIV healthcare, as it pertains to healthcare at all, because Lord knows that none of us are really getting any. But I'm going to have a special guest that's going to talk to us a little bit about what those things are doing to the people on the streets. Right now, what they're doing to a lot of constituents is making people feel antsy. So let's start off with HIV healthcare. Now, a couple of weeks ago, if you've been following me, I've already reported that Florida is on that bullshit again, y'all. One of the things that they have done was taken away the access to HIV healthcare. And we know that this is not cool because we've seen these numbers rise significantly on the continent of Africa after they shut down USAID. Now, why would they do that over here, knowing that there are so many people that are at risk of continuing to contract HIV in America? I don't know, but your guess will be as good as mine. The good news is that the people of Florida have decided that they're going to stand up and fight back. So, with them fighting back, with them being able to come in and really rally for their people and rally for their resources, guess what, y'all? We were able to get $17.5 million of that money put back into Florida's budget exclusively and explicitly for those people who are living and thriving with HIV. But what this is reminding us, and what Netroots is here to remind us, is that the people's voice is important and that what people are saying out here does matter. They would not be working so hard to suppress your vote and your voice if it didn't matter. So, one of the things that I cannot wait to do after we have this shock, right, is introduce you to one of the people whose voices matter the most. As a matter of fact, I think I want to give y'all a treat in just a second. So, hold with me while I bring my guest over. 1 second. All right, y'all. And I am back with my esteemed and amazing guest, Miss Elizabeth Booker Houston. Girl, I'm so excited to have you here.
You know, I'm always excited to see you. We've
Okay.
gotten to spend a good week together.
Look,
This has been
a good week with good people, good Black folks
mm-hmm.
doing the work in the creator space.
Yes.
And so I was just talking to the people about how our voice matters. We just saw in Florida that they were able to secure $17.5 million for their HIV healthcare coming back. And I was talking to them about how people don't suppress voices that don't matter to them. And your voice is one of those voices that I think is so powerful and pivotal in this movement right now. The way that you set us up for an alley oop every time, you make us laugh, you educate us, but most importantly, you're reminding people that you don't have to be PC to get the message out.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to come out crystal clear or in the way that a boardroom meeting might sound. It just has to come out, especially if you know what you're talking about, right?
Right.
And so talk to us and walk us through what that looks like for you, knowing that you have that responsibility and also wielding it the way that you do.
Yeah, well, I think it just comes back to being authentic. And I always tell people that I was not my most authentic self for the first couple of years that I was on social media because I tried to mask my accent, which a lot of Southerners do. So you'll see a lot of old videos of me where I sound ridiculous and almost like a little robotic with a lot of things that I said because there was always this concept, oh, when people hear a Southern accent, they think you're ignorant, they think this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
But then I would do these funny videos and when I'm being lighthearted and my audience would be like, girl, where'd the accent come from?
Right.
Because I can't mask it and talk fast and do what I do at the same time. And I think it was around like 2022 where I made a video and I was like, I'm not masking my accent anymore. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a Black woman. I'm a Black Southern woman. I have an accent. And it was like schlepping off that last bit of just masking my authenticity that was the moment everything started to really propel forward. That was when I actually started to come into my voice. And it was like, I don't know. It's so crazy to me even looking back to think that I would do that. And as far as being PC, that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit like people think of PC just as, you know, because I cuss on my content
Right.
or I say things in kind of a blue comedy kind of way and things like that. But it's not just that. It's also masking those parts of yourself that you might not be the most comfortable with or might feel like might not be the most palatable to people.
Yeah.
And it always surprises folks because they're like, oh, you're so comfortable cussing and all that. But I was uncomfortable with displaying my own accent at that time.
You know, the thing that's interesting about it is I think that folks feel like content creators or influencers, no matter what your lane is within the influence, are folks that take up space from actual journalists. And I'm not sure that I've ever heard you claim to be anything other than a person who is committed. And obviously your actual credentials of being, you know, a lawyer, practicing or non. What do you feel about that critique of people, of like folks in the creator space taking up room or taking up space or taking away space from, you know, actual journalists?
Oh, people are missing a big opportunity if that's the mindset you come with. The proudest partnership I have is thanks to the Onyx Impact and like what they have done for me with their Integrity Lab. And they paired me with the Washington Informer, which is a Black-owned DC newspaper. I have been partnered with them for almost a year, using my content to drive my audience to subscribing to that news, to subscribing to, I love physical media. I tell everybody, I get the paper delivered to me in person because I love that physical media. And also to their digital newsletters. And we won a Webby. We won a Webby Award for our partnership of journalists, content creator, and then also the Onyx Impact. And we won that award. And it's like I'm so proud of it because again, it was about uplifting Black journalism. And right now I'm working on content to talk about Karen Atiyah, a fantastic Black woman journalist who was unceremoniously and unlawfully, in my opinion, fired from the Washington Post. And she is now going through arbitration with them because of what they did to her for her personal views about Charlie Kirk's murder, where she simply shared his exact words. She didn't even really make, you know, and they fired her over that. You know, putting her story out there. I made a video that went pretty viral about the Black journalists who were let go from CBS News, and I put their faces on my platform and named them. This is where we have a symbiotic relationship that is so possible. And that tension that people are having between journalists and content creators really should not be a tension. I did an interview with the Texas Tribune where I mentioned to the journalist, he asked like, how I feel about traditional journalists. I said, well, first of all, you don't even say traditional. I'm not a journalist at all.
Right.
I've actually made videos where I'm like, I'm not a journalist. Where people
Right.
call me a journalist, I'm like, nah, political commentator and lawyer. Leave it at that.
Right.
I have my own lane and I stay in it. But he asked about that relationship. And, I mentioned to him, we're seeing like with the firing of Karen Attiah, with a lot of the staff at CBS News, with other staff at the Washington Post, journalists having to step into the content creator lane. We saw it with Joanne Reed. We saw it with Don Lemon.
Yep.
We should not be battling each other because we're going to need each other, especially with this fascist takeover of our media.
So I'm here with The Root, and I know that that's, one of the outlets that I think Black folk look to when we think about what are we learning in politics, what are we learning in pop culture, a little bit less pop culture, but there's moments where The Root really dives into
and that's another partnership I'm with, is Watering Hole Media, The Root cohort. There's another one.
But I think, so how do you feel about that? Because I love that you say that you really accredit a lot of this to your partnership with Black Onyx. Do you feel like more people or more media, like large mainstream media companies, would benefit from having programs like Black Onyx, and especially with that collaboration that you have to the Washington Post? Like, I think that is something that could be utilized.
Or it's with the Washington Informer.
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But like, I think that there's so many spaces where that could be utilized in cities where there are a lot of Black papers that are not getting that.
And Onyx Impact is doing that all over.
Okay.
They have paired, I believe, A.B. Burns Tucker, aka I Am Legally Hype.
Okay.
She is now working with, I believe it's Capital B News in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're going to see more and more of these partnerships, but we need more investment in that. And I mean, The Informer, I have been honored to work with them. I've felt welcomed by them. Because we have a common goal. But I do think that is a significant difference as well between Black media and non-Black media. Black media has been more welcoming. Yeah. It just has, and been more about, let's look at this as an opportunity for something new and innovative, because we are the blueprint.
Right.
So of course they're going to be the first ones to say, that's crazy to battle with content creators. Let's work together.
Correct.
So it doesn't surprise me about who is leading this right now. But I need everybody else to follow, because the fact of the matter is that white media outlets are the majority, and y'all have a lot of white content creators.
Yeah.
You have a lot of non-white content creators, Black content creators, brown content creators that you can work with as well to help amplify your own news outlet. And we need that, because we need people to have trusted news sources in this age of misinformation and disinformation. There is no reason for journalists and content creators to be at war. None. I just never made sense to me. I'm very much a strategic thinker.
Yes.
I'm always thinking about strategy, and I'm a solutions oriented person. So I don't like getting in the middle of like these beefs and back and forth. I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to join this discourse. What can I do to do something new? And then here comes the Sosa Osa, like, hey girl, I got this company, Onyx Impact, and we got a Black owned newspaper. And I said, yes. Absolutely. And that's what we need more of.
The thing about that is that there are so many people that are going to say, well, if I'm not a Booker Square, if I don't have all of these followers, if I don't have all of these people, those programs are great, but they only benefit super large scale Black content creators or influencers. What do you say should be a thing? Because if we're going to offer, the solution to the people, we have to also offer what we think that they should do, because that's going to come up, right? It's going to be, people are going to maybe watch this, maybe see this, maybe hear it through the grapevine and say, you know what, that actually is something we should implement. And then they're going to call all of the influences that we know and love. But what happens to the little person who is like, I have a huge story about what's happening in my city, and the major influencer has been traveling and taking time for themselves, or interviewing these large stakes, cases and representatives and people? Like, how do they get into, or how do we encourage these folks after you build this program to not just look for the people with the million behind their name or the 250K, but how do we also make space for those micro influencers to also tell those macro stories?
That is the time for the big content creators to step up. Every time.
All right.
Every time.
Okay.
I speak so many names. Every time.
Every time?
Every time.
Okay.
Every time. So I take it very seriously to speak the names of creators, large and small, in certain rooms. We have a mutual friend, Stephanie Jacques.
Indeed.
She has, I don't even think 10,000 followers on Instagram at this moment, but she is a powerful voice.
Amazing.
So when she told me she was relocating to DC, and when I got an opportunity to be about a presser with Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, Rashida Tlaib, and I believe it was Annalila Meha. I don't want to mispronounce her name. We had a conversation about the fact that it was about reproductive rights. I know Stephanie has a work history in reproductive rights, and boom, Stephanie was now the speaker at the presser.
Come on.
That's how you do it. It's so simple, and there's room for everybody. Me bringing Stephanie into that space did not take away my moment, but that's what needs to happen. You have to build that community. So my goal is to, every time that I can, connect these creators. I've connected creators with much smaller platforms than myself with Onyx Impact, which Asosa has been very grateful for. We have creators of all different platform sizes and various group chats that I'm in, try to recommend them for opportunities. That's on us, right? Larger creators need to not have so much ego and pride. We need to make sure that we are bringing other people into the fold every single time.
Lift as you climb.
Exactly, lift as you climb. I'm not gonna close the door behind me. I'm gonna try to open 5 other doors when I get up there.
Right. And you have. I think that our personal story is beautiful. I think that you've opened so many doors for me, and I've watched you do it time after time after time for other people, and it's never been an ask. I think that one of the major components of your compersion is that you love to watch other people benefit, even if you don't get anything from the benefit.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's
that's
also a little selfish
thing
on my part. I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to be in this space forever. I don't. This is not a long-term plan for me. As many people know, I had my dream job, and I was forced out of it because of this administration, and my intention is to go back. And so it's, yes, I love to watch people succeed. Oh, I mean, I was tearing up watching Stephanie speak at that presser. I was so proud. I think about that all the time. Like, it makes me happy, but I'm not gonna lie, there's a bit of a selfish aspect to it of, I don't want to be in this space forever, but I need other people to be here. And if I leave, there need to be about 100 other people replacing me.
Absolutely.
That's how you keep an ecosystem going. And I think it's also just about being honest with that reality as a content creator, especially a political creator. This might not be something that individual can do forever. Knowing our limitations, but also not leaving a gap when we go.
Come on.
That's very important to me.
And so one of the things that's really important to me, as a really great segue for that, is HIV awareness, prevention.
I did a sponsored video about it with the Washington Informer. Actually, one of the videos we did was about the cuts to HIV research funding and to PrEP access. Yeah.
And so I was talking with the people a little bit before you got here about that win in Florida, about getting that funding back, because there were so many people that were missing it. What are some of we know that you stand for a lot of different things. There are like some very important and pivotal things that you're always we're going to hear from Booker about this. What would you say right now is one of those things that is a part of that wheelhouse for you that you don't think people are talking about enough?
Oh, epidemics, public health. I think we talk about me being a lawyer. I'm also a scientist, and I'm trained in public health. I did my JD and my Master of Public Health at the same time, and I was trained at the CDC's Public Health Law program. And the first epidemic I worked on was Zika virus. I did not think I would ever see a global pandemic like COVID-19, and I think people do think about that. I had actually just transitioned from public health law and working with like quarantine, isolation, that sort of thing, into data privacy and health systems, because I was like, this isn't gonna be useful. And then boom, a global pandemic. Ain't it crazy how that goes? Anyway, we don't talk enough about epidemics generally, like HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
That is still an epidemic. An epidemic is defined as one case more than the usual, than any case of HIV. Yeah. It's not, so we have things that are we have epidemics, we have things that are endemic. And that is not focused on enough. And if we talked more generally about epidemics, maybe then we could stop doing things like demonizing those who have HIV and AIDS. Maybe we could do things like not putting a stigma on that and talk about it through the lens of public health and science, as we should, and not through the lens of morality.
Come on.
That is where we need to be. And also there is a man named RFK Jr. who is currently spreading disease and famine all up throughout this nation as he dismantles the Department of Health and Human Services. So that is my big focus, what we need to talk about. And I love the fact that you are talking about HIV and AIDS. We need to have all different communities, Black women currently, I'm talking about Black cis women.
Come on.
Have the highest rate of new cases of HIV of any other demographic. Again, stop making it about morality. Stop making it about a certain gender or sexual identity.
Yeah.
Talk about it as the public health epidemic that it is.
Come on.
And let's address it.
It's interesting to me because when I hear you talk through your public health things, a lot of folks don't know that you do have that science background. A lot of people don't know. I think that also you're really a humanitarian and what I like to believe a little bit of a self-funded philanthropist at heart. And so there's a lot that goes into your principles and your politics. As my last question, what is something that you are unwavering on? Something that it doesn't matter what the coin looks like. It doesn't matter who's attached to it, Democrat, right ring, left ring, Republican. Booker is not moving on this because this is my foundation, and it's fundamentally why you're in this movement. I think that that's something that I don't hear you talk through enough.
Oh, I mean, I wish I had like a very specific bright line rule, but it's literally if it does not align with my spirit. Even when I post my platform, this past week, I've posted barely anything because nothing's really hit my spirit or hit me in a way that I think that my voice is the voice for this. So I've been collaborating a lot and reposting others, which is great. Another great way to amplify smaller accounts and other people and the voices that should be centered in that moment, right? But I know I have a feeling in my spirit, and I got the biggest compliment this week at Trending Up. It's interesting when you think people aren't paying attention, and I've recently had so much drama of people saying, "Oh, she's a shill and a grifter because she partnered with the Congressional Black Caucus PAC to uplift Black American issues." I'm like, I don't know how that's grifting as a Black woman to uplift issues about Black people with a Black organization, but we'll move on from that. Some people just get mad because you're getting any kind of money, but I don't take any kind of money. And this misconception that can be bought. But I got the biggest compliment from a fellow creator who works for a pretty big organization. And he said, hey, we hadn't met in person before, but I emailed you a few years ago. You were making content about a specific candidate that you did not like. And we reached out to you to offer you money to continue to make content about that. And you said, I appreciate the offer, but I think that would taint the purity of my position and how I feel to take that money for that. And so I'll continue to say these things, but I don't ever want to be paid in a way that feels like a smear campaign. And he said, I never forgot that. And I respected that. And that really, and it was nice to be seen because a lot of people have really been misrepresenting a lot about me, but it's the fact of the matter that the folks who've reached out to me with offers and money and things like that, they know how I've interacted. They know what my contracts look like. And they know that at the end of the day, I have never agreed to not speak about something. I think the only thing, to be honest, was I did something that was anti-crypto and I had a 30-day exclusivity to not be pro-crypto. And I'll take it. You know, that's like the most that I've had that would be like a gag, which it's not. It just aligns. I'm never going to be pro-crypto. So that was fine and also reasonable in my opinion. But I've never had anybody say, I cannot speak about a certain thing. We must have control of your platform. We tell you to say this. Nobody tells me what to say. Nobody controls my platform. Nobody ever has. Nobody ever will. And that is where Booker sits. I do not take any dollar, penny, offer, nothing that does not align with me. Because let me tell you, baby, them Kalshi and Polymarket platforms have been offering 6 figures.
6 figures.
And instead, I called them out and got a cease and desist from them when I could have quietly taken 6 figures. And I did not. So I'm just going to say anything you see me promote or say on my platform is really at my heart.
You stand by it.
And I stand by it and I stand on it every time. I do not put out anything paid or unpaid that I do not stand by.
So my last question is, we are here at Netroots 2026, and you, along with a couple of other powerhouse folks, are going to be the last voices that we hear on our way out. What are you excited about for that conversation on Saturday?
I am so excited to talk to Justin J. Pearson, my fellow South Memphis native. Talk to him, talk to Congresswoman Nikema Williams, talk to them about what's going on with redistricting and why all roads lead to the South. And I'm ready to talk about why Justin J. Pearson is not getting the investment that he deserves in his race compared to others, including others that are in some of the same coalitions as him. You know, I just find it interesting that he's part of Leaders We Deserve, which of course was founded by David Hogg, but he's not getting nearly the same amount of attention or resources as Graham Plattner up in Maine. And I think that that's a big misstep. Because if we're really going to fight against what the Trump administration is doing, as I said, all roads lead to the South. Where is Justin J. Pearson in the South? Where is he running in the South? Where is he running? Where there's one of the largest, blackest cities in America. He should be invested in heavily.
You heard it.
Heavily.
You heard it.
And so I'm ready to have this conversation, really talk about how to move forward, because I think that once again, Black Americans have said we have the playbook in front of us, and there are far too many white Americans saying, I'm just going to be Ray Charles to it, and I'm confused.
Correct.
Because why don't you want to win, and why don't you want to follow the path that we know is the path forward?
I love this because it's really giving Save the Last Dance. Like, open up your pretty brown eyes and look the hell around, right? The world that they teach us about and the world that we live in are oftentimes two different places. And I just want to thank you for helping us to create a bridge over that weird gap that we are living and existing in. And I know that people know where to find you, but in case this is y'all first time really sitting in space and listening to this badass, please tell them where you can be found, Elizabeth.
You can find me all across platforms. You can search Elizabeth Booker Houston or my handle Booker Squared. My maiden name is Elizabeth Booker Booker. That's why I go by Booker Squared. I like to put that little story out there because then people remember the name even easier. And yeah, you can find me there.
All righty, y'all. And y'all have heard it here from me. This has been Hope Giselle for The Root. And make sure y'all visit theroot.com for more stories like this one. And if you want to see this full interview, head over to my YouTube right now because that's where it's going to be at. And until next time, I'll see you all around. Bye, everybody.